Euan, you're part of this community of unity. I love that name. Isn't it a great title?
Yes.
It's just been so organic. What have you felt while being here for a few days?
Well, I've been here almost 11 days now, and what I've felt is a huge amount of love, a breaking down of social barriers that seem to have been slowly put up over the last 10 to 11 years. There's no money here, and nobody has a job title. People just do what they feel they need to do. If you see rubbish, you pick it up. If your paths are dirty, you sweep them
Absolutely.
up. Everybody just helps out the way we should in a community.
Everybody I'm talking to is saying this is how New Zealand could be. This
It's
is
how it should
adults
be.
taking responsibility, not waiting for
Yep.
leaders,
Yep.
doing it themselves
Yes.
and helping
Yes.
one another.
Yes.
Tell me when you first began to suspect that things we were being told were very dodgy in this country.
Probably almost in the year 2000 when they tried to outlaw compost and worm farms. And I remember with my first wife protesting or petitioning against that. But this latest thing, I think it was 2020 when they changed the Privacy Act. And I made a submission on the Health Privacy Act and didn't have time to do any more. But essentially, the Health Privacy Acts and the changes they were making is what opened it up so that, how can I put it? So that in the case of a pandemic or an epidemic, that the rights of individuals' privacy could be overridden if it seemed like the needs of the many were more important than the needs of the individual's privacy, is the way I see it. And it also allowed for individuals' private information to be shared with third parties and stored by third parties. It was the Health Privacy Act, the finances, so they had access to your credit rating and things. It was the, I can't remember what it's called, like the Crimes Privacy Act, so they had a full access to anybody's criminal history or otherwise. And there were two others as well, I think, which basically set the foundations for bringing in the social credit score system or digital ID, where everybody's complete and utter private information was stored digitally on a third party's server. And I wrote that in a submission. There were only 13 submissions on that Privacy Act.
And
Um,
why were there so few? Because was it done like all the other legislation, covertly, quietly, without much discussion?
it
Was it
was
like
quite
that?
quietly, but it was also at a time when nobody realised that it was going to be an issue. In my opinion, Sue Gray's court case that failed with regards to our human rights being breached
Yes.
failed solely because we were in this pandemic, medical epidemic, and
So called, so
yep.
called.
So the rights of individuals' privacy was able to be written because of the changes they made to the Privacy Act.
What's chilling about early 2020 when you saw this is we hadn't had the rollout of all this pandemic.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it was November 2020. I think. Yeah.
so, so what does it tell you that they seem to be preempting, that they had plans? Is it that feeling that you had when you were doing your submission? This is part of a bigger picture. Was it that?
Yes. Yes. We all know that Jacinda Ardern stood up. I can't remember whether it was the World Economic Forum stage and said that she would lead New Zealand as the first country in the world to move fully into Agenda 2030. And that's all on the public stage and in the public arena.
And people can look up Agenda 2030 online
Yes.
and see how much has been implemented. Now, she never discussed that with us. She just did it.
Yes, yes, yes. And so did a lot of the other people that came through the Global Leaders course, which is run by the World Economic Forum. I know Boris Johnson and Bill Gates, and I think Trudeau, and quite a few of
Definitely
the other
Trudeau.
world leaders at present are all
Angela
part of the
Merkel,
same thing. Yeah.
Helen Clark was in there.
Yes. Yeah.
So at this point, did you realize all these other uh, networks of organization to take the people of the world down a certain path? Or were
Yes.
you just beginning your research into it?
No, I'd sort of been looking into it for a long time. And I'm aware of the fact that New Zealand's government became a corporation in 1986. So the way I see it, as with any corporation, if a corporation goes bankrupt, they bring in the receivers and put it into receivership, and then they liquidate it if they can't pay the debts back. So COVID worldwide has been a mechanism to drive the debt of countries to excessive levels. And then they're using, in my opinion, because I have to say that, they're using climate change because they've shut down a lot of oil production and capped wells. And look, yep, we've shut down an oil refinery. Now we're solely reliant on petroleum products from Asia. And that is driving inflation through the roof because our fuel prices are going up. It's driving inflation. So we borrow exorbitant billions of dollars at low interest rates, and worldwide, inflation's taken off through the roof. How are we going to pay that back? Okay, if we can't pay it back, what happens when, the lenders take, the assets?
Take us right back to 1987. What was that, New Zealand becoming a corporation?
1986, I think it
A
was.
lot of people talking about this. What do
Yep.
you understand about that from your research?
I think that was when we first had our currency went on to the International Monetary Exchange. And I'm assuming as soon as we went on the monetary exchange, we were a tradable asset. And I've seen where the New Zealand government is on a stock exchange overseas. I know the Auckland Council is. A lot of other councils are part of that, and corporate. Police is listed on there as corporate. I think there's a website called Wake Up Kiwi, which has all that information on it.
None of this has been done with open, transparent discussion with the people. What do
No.
you think the people can do now as we wake one by one and realize how much has been gouged from our freedoms, how much has been done covertly, dishonorably, secretively, with this group of people who are only our servants, and they've run rogue, really. They've run rogue on us.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, personally, I see this whole vaccine rollout as being a pyramid scheme. Somebody came up with the idea of a pandemic, and somebody came up with how they would treat it, and it seems there is a very small group of players who are making all of the money off of this. And they came down the pyramid, and us, the people, are the bottom of the pie, feeding all our cash up to the top of the pyramid scheme. And pyramid schemes are illegal, and yet it doesn't seem to stop it. And indeed, there's the Commerce Commission is supposed to stop monopolies, and yet there are huge monopolies going on around this COVID thing.
Such as?
There's 4 companies doing the vaccines worldwide, for example, and they won't let anybody else make them or know the secret formula. There's the RAT tests, or rapid antigen tests, and there's a cornered market there. Masks, the people that got into the ground level, it's, there are cornered markets. And
I was talking to Jay Bhattacharya the other day from Stanford, who was behind the Great Barrington Declaration. He said this has been the most enormous transfer of wealth and gouging from the working class and the middle class up to this small group of people.
Yep.
So what is your response for Kiwis? What do you think Kiwis who are feeling a bit panicked hearing all of this, that their country's kind of being stolen from under them? What do you think? Is it to come here to Wellington, to register with these people who won't listen, that we will speak up? We will speak up. How dare you do this to us?
I think the most important thing is that we've all been made to feel like we're alone. So when it came to vaccine rollouts in the workplace, we all felt we were on our own, and we had to make our own individual choice.
And the lockdowns are part of aloneness and disconnection that's not happening anymore.
Yeah, over the last 10 years, they've sort of knocked unions back. But in the old days, we would have all got together as a union and said, are we going to stand for having our workplace mandated, or should we have freedom of choice? And we would have stood outside work and not gone in until they gave us what we wanted in the way of a demand.
The people power, the people having power.
Yes, and that's what people need to do, is actually go around with workmates and say, hey, do you actually want this booster? Yep. And say, if we need a vaccine passport, and we need a booster to keep it, and it's being mandated, some of us might want the booster and some of us don't, but we all want this job. So we all say, well, we're on stress leave. We're not coming into work today until we, it's no longer a necessity.
Absolutely. And a lot of Kiwis here are saying, I did the 2, because there are a lot of jabbed and unjabbed here. A lot are saying, I did the 2, I did what was right, I expected normality, nothing's gone back to normal. And they're saying to me, I've had it with this government. There seems to be no line with them. They keep pushing the line. So you came here to register that you do not approve of what they're doing. Is that right?
Yes. Initially, I came when the convoy arrived and I'd gone home. And then, yeah, went to work on Thursday morning and was told that I wasn't required. Looked at the internet and saw what was happening.
The police
Yep. And
attack.
we got to get there. So I picked up 3 other people and we shot straight over here. And
Brilliant, Euan.
yeah, Friday I was just emotional all day because the atmosphere on Friday wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for the people that actually managed to organise themselves against an organised police line and hold it.
Amazing, isn't
Yep.
it? And they did it
Yep.
with love. They did it in the Kiwi way,
Yes.
offering love and respect,
Yep.
but a very fierce love. You will not do this to us.
No.
Yeah.
No. That was at 100%. That we've come from a place of love, and that's kind of unique. I would have expected that governments around the world would have thought that people would come from a place of anger and hatred. Yep, but we're it's mainly the children. A lot of people are here because of they're starting to roll it out on children,
Yes.
and they haven't been entirely honest about the safe and effective. I've got an 18-year-old daughter who's been hospitalised 3 times. Since taking the vaccine, didn't want it, mandated at work, didn't want to lose the job or the flat. Did 3 days at work and hasn't been back.
Oh, what is it? What has she got? What?
It started off with 15 minutes of paralysis from the neck down and moved up towards 2 hours plus, sometimes unable to breathe, sometimes losing control of the tongue.
Oh.
But
She's 18.
Yep. Thankfully, that seems to have stretched out and it's becoming, hasn't had an episode for a while.
And
But,
is she taking any more?
no, she had the second one. Goodness only knows why. ACC turned it down because they had no proof of cause because they didn't consider an injection to be proof of cause. The specialist appointment has been postponed and cancelled 3 times, and she still hasn't even seen a specialist, and this was in November.
That is a very common story, the lack of follow-up, the lack of protocols from this government. When somebody's done the jabs, they're asking, there's no follow-up if you get injured.
No.
You, of all people, could
no
be really
responsibility.
angry, and yet you're choosing love.
Yep.
What's making you choose love over anger and vendetta?
What does it solve? It's not our government necessarily. I believe that they are they're more like puppets, I suppose, playing to the tune of something higher up. And you see that when the same narrative comes out within weeks of each other all around the world.
Everyone's saying Trudeau and Ardern are looking like these evil twins in the world now. A lot of people have said that to me here.
Yep.
The sort of evil twins doing, just absolutely violating their people. So what are you seeing here in the camp itself? Are you seeing only love, or are you seeing some odd things that may be government related? What have you observed? Tell us some of the stories of being here.
Yeah, well, I can only give my opinion, but I'm sure I've seen undercover officers in here, and I would expect that there would be even if I hadn't seen them, because that would be standard practice. You got to have people on the inside to try and work out what's going on if you want to clear this mess. Yeah, I sometimes put myself in their shoes and say, what would I do if I were them? And
you see, that's how MSM is terming it, a mess. Is this a mess to you?
No.
Why do you say it's not a mess from your perspective?
I think it's just because everybody's working together, so there is no chaos and disorder.
No.
Everybody has sort of got a respect. I said to somebody the other day, the homeless problem was solved within days of this starting because they were invited in and given food and clothing. 5 years, our government has been pledging to fix it with all of their money and hasn't been able to fix it. In a community of no money, with love, it's more or less resolved.
Absolutely. So it's incredible,
bizarre.
isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of government behaviour or police behaviour, tell us what the police have been asked not to be here, haven't they, by the Tangata Whenua?
Yes.
Explain that for people who don't realise.
Okay. Because this is sacred Maori ground, it was originally a marae on the side of Parliament, and the marae was moved. My understanding is that the settlement with regard to the treaty was never fully resolved or settled on this site. So there are various Maori parties that have come in, and they have overridden the trespass orders. I know one fella that was arrested in the police line for trespass, went to court, was given a letter by a Māori elder, and the case was dropped, just like that. So it stands. And the police have their side of the fence, and we have been given permission to camp and be on these grounds.
By the tangata whenua, by the
Yes,
Māori. But the
yes.
police have been told, no, you don't come on here.
Yes, yes. They've been trespassed from the immediate grounds, is my understanding.
Yeah.
But they constantly try to push it. And
Give us an example where they might have tried to stir things up, in your view, your
yeah,
opinion.
it happens. There was one really odd situation where supposedly a maniac had run into this community of unity, and people had said, "There's a maniac, a security. Yep, you got to go and get him." So our security took off from the gate.
Because there are lots of security here from within the community.
So this was the double gates up there, and I said to my mate, if that's not a maniac, if that was an undercover, and I'm only speculating, I've got to say that, then you'd expect the police to turn up any second now because there's nobody on the gates. And lo and behold, 8 police officers walked around the corner.
So you knew it was probably a setup.
Yep, and
possibly.
A member of the public said, "Yep, great you're here. Yep, he ran that way. Go in and get him." Yep, and I can only the police said to me, said to the guy, your security has told us we're not allowed in there, and they were looking around. So before anybody could say anything, I said to the police, "That's right, you're trespassing if you come in here," and they just looked at me and walked off. I found out later on that at exactly the same time, a large number of police had gathered at a gate up the top. So, yeah, you could say it's coincidence, but it looked like they were planning to come in and possibly have to deal to an event that they created themselves, and it could have exploded within minutes.
It would be like dried tinder going up in smoke like that.
Yes.
Because what? They might have charged in, put panic in the tent.
And they
used it as an excuse to kick people out, arrest people, when there was nothing actually going on except possibly a police plant.
Yeah,
or a government plant.
Yeah, it's speculation, but everything adds up to the possibility that was quite possibly exactly what it was. And that happens when the police come in on various other things. 7 o'clock on Thursday night, I think, there was people doing ohms up at the top, like meditation. And a couple of police officers walked up to the security guards and sort of did the whole, we got a right to be in here. The security guards had called for everybody to make a line to stop them coming in because they're not supposed to be here. But the police they do this, "Oh no, we got a right to be here," and they move in and they just inch by inch part through the crowd, and they came around the corner and got surrounded by the crowd into a horseshoe directly under the cameras on the corner of the building, so they were being watched. So if the police wind up in a threatening situation, it's only natural that they would call for backup, or backup would be sent. I went up to some people that were blocking their exit and said, "Please move away. You've got to. The police have got to have an exit, or otherwise they might call for backup."
Inflame it.
Yeah. So people moved back, and the police exited, and everything went back down.
I mean, well done. You are playing 5-dimensional chess with a group who actually should be serving the people.
I might just be seeing shadows. Yeah,
I think it's wise at this point to see those shadows.
Yeah, and I think I heard the police commissioner say a couple of days ago that, there's too much risk of things becoming heated and inflamed and exploding, and he doesn't want that. So I'm hoping it's all going to settle down, but...
What it does is it shows the mainstream media narrative to be totally false. People are keeping it calm here. Even on Thursday when I was here, they were talking about be love, be gentle, say to them, you mustn't do this, you're one of us.
Yes.
It was kept very calm on Thursday in the face of what people described to me was absolute police provocation. This place was calm until those police lines moved in and did violence.
Yeah.
So I think the police have learnt their lesson. What's your feeling? Do you think they, as you were saying just now, this commissioner saying this, let's hope he's genuine.
Yes.
Saying we can't go in and inflame things. The media are trying to inflame it. But the people here are gentle, as far as I can see.
Yeah, there are things where they're constantly trying to have reasons to come, and they tried using medical emergencies, for example, as a reason to have a police presence within these grounds. And yet I saw a 3 o'clock in the morning somebody being stretchered out. And that's another reason for having bus lanes clear, is so that they can have ambulance access.
Yeah.
But at the top of Parliament grounds, there is a road that's open, and that's where the ambulance met the people.
Yeah.
And down at the bottom, uphill from the main Parliament steps, is the only way I can describe it, there's also a free-flowing road. And round here, if anybody wants help, like if I said, I can't tie my shoelace, can you tie it? Somebody would just tie it. If you need a stretcher carried, I'm sure if you yelled out, we need stretcher bearers, you would have to be turning people away because you would have too many stretcher bearers.
That is the atmosphere, and there's a full-on medical tent.
There
with
is.
many, many nurses and doctors who've been mandated out.
Yes.
So this is being run sensibly and sanely.
Very much.
Your message to the Prime Minister, down that camera, if you had one, Euan, if she actually graced the people, which she should be, with her presence by saying, I was voted in by you, I owe it to you to listen. And she was standing there, what would you say down that camera? Jacinda Ardern, this is my message to you. Look right down that camera and say it from your heart.
My message to you, we would like to know the truth. You say the vaccine is safe and effective, for example. I say it is not safe and it is questionably effective. April last year, I think we knew that there were risks of myocarditis, that people were having Bell's palsy, that they were having nervous reactions and things triggering their body. And yet it took Ashley Bloomfield until, was it October or November of this year, to actually admit that myocarditis and pericarditis were actually an issue. Stop hiding the truth, please. Be honest, be upfront. It should be informed choice on every level, in everything.
And what about here? When all these people are here, what would you say to her about what she should do when the people are saying we need to talk to you? We voted you in, some of us, and we need you to hear us now. What would you say to her down there, down that camera?
Well, honestly, not sure what I would say. Yeah, and I don't know if I want to say some of the things that are the first things to come into my mind.
Well, I would say come and meet the people. Come and meet the people and talk to
I'm
the
not
people.
sure if that would be safe for her, but it would be nice if it was.
Why do you think that? Because this is a loving
Because
crowd.
so many people have been hurt. So many people have been mandated against their will. So many people have had injuries to loved ones or people that they know, or children or whānau now, that there is so much anger against the mandates that have been, I think that overreach is what it's all about. They've overreached.
There is a lot of hurt, but look, if this crowd was going that way, they would be chanting angry things, throwing things. They're not doing that. So I think the Prime Minister will use something like that to say, that's why I'm not coming out. If I were leader, even if I felt that people were angry, I would come and say, I must listen to you. She needs courage. If she doesn't have courage, how can she be our leader? I mean, do you really think she should hide in there, Euan?
Like I say, she wants to lead the way into Agenda 2030, and I think she's doing that at all costs. And generally, she follows public opinion. It's not about what's right or wrong. It's about keeping the public on her side, or the masses on her side.
So in that case, what can the people do if they're not approving? I'm saying 1 million, 2 million, 3 million need to come to Wellington.
That's why we're here. Yep.
And what do you think that will do in the long term?
I don't know. She won't have tax dollars coming in if nobody's working.
Thank you, Euan. That was good.
Yeah.
Good.
That's all right.
Thanks. Lovely.